بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. So today, inshallah ta'ala, I want to discuss an important topic with our brothers. And that particular topic is in accordance with the theme of this lecture series, which is cultivating the family in times of fitna. But in order to cultivate a family, you have to keep your family together. In order to cultivate a family, then you have to keep your family together. And one of the things that we see in these days and times is people rushing to end their relationships. Whether it be from the side of the man rushing to divorce his wife, or whether it be from the woman rushing to divorce or ask for an annulment, otherwise known as a khula, from her husband. So we want to read some advice from the Mufti of Saudi Arabia, Sheikh Abdul Aziz Ali Sheikh, Hafidhahullah, around this particular topic that highlights that a person, or that both spouses, they need to be patient. They need to be patient with each other and try to keep their family together in order that they can cultivate their family. So the question was, السؤال هل الطلاق هو حل الأخير في حال كثر المشاكل بين الزوجين. The question was mentioned to the Mufti of Saudi Arabia: is divorce the last option in a situation where there is much turmoil between the spouses? Is divorce the last option? Is it the last option in a situation where there is much turmoil between the spouses? Al-Jawab, Sheikh Abdul Aziz Ali Sheikh, he said, أولا يا إخواني, he says, firstly, O my brothers, المشاكل بين الزوجين لا يخلو منها بيت غالبا. The Mufti, he mentioned, and this is something that we should all keep on our minds, is that turmoil and strife and arguments and bickering between the spouses, normally there's not a house that's free from that. So if a person is married and he has some differences with his wife, or a woman is married and she has some differences with her husband, they shouldn't feel as though their house is the only house that's going through those things, or that their house is the only house where there's some type of differing between the spouses. As the Mufti, he mentions that there's not a house that's free from that. Normally there's not a house that's free from that. فَالْوَاجِبْ عَلَى الزَّوْجَيْنِ تَقْوَى اللَّهِ. So it's upon the spouses to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's where problems occur sometimes, that both spouses, they don't fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. An argument arises and the husband, he does something that's not from the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or the wife, she reacts in a manner that's not from the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Mufti, he mentions, firstly, that it's obligatory in these situations that both spouses, that they fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's an argument, there's a discrepancy. There's no problem with that. Human beings are going to have their differences. But they need to keep on their minds that they fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in those differences, and in a manner that they interact with one another during those differences. وَأَنْ يُعَامِلَ الْبَعْدَ بِالصِّدْقِ وَالْأَمَانَةِ. And that each of the spouses, they interact with one another with truthfulness and trustworthiness. That the spouses, they should be truthful to one another. And no doubt that could cause a problem in a relationship if they're not truthful. You want to know the person that you're married to. Don't present a picture to a person who you aren't really, and you're not that person. Don't marry a woman and present to her that you're somebody that you're not. Don't marry a man and present to that man that you're somebody that you're not. But as it relates to the two spouses, then they need to interact with one another with truthfulness in their actions and in their speech. Well, amana and trustworthiness. If you can't trust your spouse, then who can you trust? If you cannot trust your spouse, then who can you trust? You have to be out in the world taking care of things that men take care of, and you can't interact with everybody not wholeheartedly, but you can't open yourself up to everyone. You can't trust everyone. You have to deal with that all day, being on guard. When you come into the house, who wants to be on guard when they come in the house and they can't trust their spouse? Likewise, a woman may have to take care of needs during the day. When she comes in the house, she wants to be around someone she can trust and open up to. So the two spouses, they interact with one another with being truthful and being trustworthy. وَالْقِيَامِ بِالْوَاجِبِ. And no doubt that this is extremely important, that they fulfill their obligations. That they fulfill their obligations. We hear it all the time. Men complaining that their wives aren't fulfilling their obligations. And likewise, women complaining that their husbands aren't fulfilling their obligations. But again, going back to the importance of seeking knowledge. How can a person fulfill their obligations if they have no idea what their obligations are? A person goes to go get married and he doesn't know the responsibilities that he has to carry out. He doesn't know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made obligatory for him to carry out. The wife goes into a situation and she doesn't know what she has to carry out. She said, I didn't know I had to do that. I didn't know I had to do this. And in the meanwhile, her husband is upset. So they need to carry out the things that are obligatory upon them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَعَاشِرُوهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions, and live with women in kindness. Live with women in kindness. And likewise the woman lives with her husband in kindness, and they have fine interaction with one another. The Mufti, he continues, فَيَا إِخْوَانِ الْمَشَاكِلِ الزَّوْجِيَّةِ يَنْبَغِي النَّظَرُ فِيهَا. The Mufti, he mentions that so marital problems, they have to be contemplated. Marital problems, they have to be contemplated. What's meant by that is that an issue, it may arise, you should contemplate it first. Because some issues are big and some issues are small. So one of the things that we should park in our minds is that when an issue arrives, we need to examine the issue. Why am I saying that? Because some people explode at the slightest of things. It could be something minute. Whether it be the man or the woman, they will explode without contemplating and saying that this is something that's small. So the Mufti, he mentions that it's befitting that a person examines the marital problem that has arisen. And he continues, وَأَلَّا يَتَسَرَّعْ بِالطَّلَاقِ. And that a person, he doesn't rush to divorce. That a person, he doesn't rush to divorce. And no doubt we hear it all the time, and perhaps some of us have suffered from it. Will you divorce a woman quickly? One time, two times, it's the third time, and that's it. And now the person is calling all around trying to find out if his divorce counted. I was mad. Well, that's when divorces happen. Divorces happen when a person is angry. So a person, he doesn't rush. Because at the end of the day, when a person rushes and races to do something, It happens often that he's going to regret that thing. So the Mufti, he mentions وَأَلَّا يَتَسَرَّعْ بِالطَّلَاقِ بِمَجَرِّدْ أَيِّ خِلَافٍ كَانَ. No matter what the differing is. لأنها اختلافات قد تكون يسيرة سهلة. That's because the issue that has arisen could be something that's minute. The issue that's arisen could be something that's minute, and the person rushes to divorce his wife because he's angry at the moment. He sits down 5-10 minutes later and he realizes that that's something that she did that before numerous times and I didn't divorce her. Why did I divorce her this time? Now he's sorry. So a person, he doesn't rush it. He doesn't rush because the issue could be something that's small. وَقَدْ تَكُنْ تَافِهَةً لَا قِيمَ لَهَا وَلَا اعْتِبَارٍ. It could be something that's not even worth mentioning. That's not even worth saying anything about. ولا يضحي بهدم الأسرة كاملة لأجل هذه الأمور اليسيرة التي يمكن حلها بأدنى خطاب. And pay attention to this particular point, where the Mufti, he mentions that some of these issues, they're not worth wrecking the whole family, and that's what happens. A small, minute issue that could have been resolved through the proper channels, a person turns it into an issue. It could be a man or the woman. Because women, they scream out, annul my marriage, give me a khula. They scream it out all the time. This is not just directed at the men. So a person, he rushes to divorce, or she rushes to scream out khula to the point where the husband can't take it anymore. And it's not just about those two anymore, but they slaughter and destroy a whole family. They slaughter and destroy a whole family. They create a single parent home due to a lapse of judgment. Where if a person would have relaxed, they would have realized that they shouldn't have done that. So the Mufti mentions that these issues, they're not worth slaughtering an entire and destroying an entire family, something small. And it's directed to the women as well, but it's directed more to the men because a man should be able to control himself. A man should be able to should be more measured than a woman. Measured meaning that he doesn't act off emotion quickly. Women, they act off emotion. A man should be able to sit back and relax and say, hold up, let me think about the situation. Your wife screams khula at you 10 times, you don't have to fold. You can say, I know you're angry right now, I'll talk to you later. I'm going to walk out, I'll be right back. Here's a couple dollars, won't you go over to your mother's house and go out to do something with your mother? 9 times out of 10, the woman to come back, she won't be thinking anything about a khula, but it was the moment. As a man, you have to be able to, and I'm not saying I'm perfect. Don't think that I'm sitting up here like I'm the perfect husband. That's not me. But what I'm saying is the man, he should be able to diffuse the situation. We have to work on that. If the woman is emotional and the man is emotional, what's going to happen in that household is everybody's walking around an emotional wreck. Somebody has to be level-headed. That's the responsibility of the man. So the Mufti, he mentions that a person doesn't wreck his whole family due to something small and minute. Thaniyan. The Mufti, he mentions secondly. He mentioned secondly, على الزوج أن يعلم أنه مسؤول. And we just touched on this briefly, but it's upon the husband to know that he's the one that he's the responsible one. He's the one that should rush to uphold the duty of being level-headed and responsible. as the Mufti is mentioning. وَأَنَّهُ أَقْوَى تَحَمُّلًا مِنَ الْمَرْأَةِ, and that he's able to bear more than a woman. And no doubt, we know as men we're able to bear more than women. A woman will break down before you. You're able to handle more than she can. So you should understand that. وَأَنَّهَا ضَعِيفَةٌ, and she's weak. Women are fragile. Women are fragile. No matter how strong they portray themselves, or no matter how much they may have been affected by the culture that they've grown up in, women are fragile. في إرادتها وتصرفها, as it relates to the things that she wants in the way that she carries herself. Women are fragile. وهو المسؤول عنها, and he's responsible for her. Know that the woman is in your care. No matter, as I'm telling you, no matter, I don't need a man, and I'm this, the things that we hear. I'll take care of myself. Oh wait, that she's strong, and I don't need a man, and I'm this, the things that we hear. I'll take care of myself. A woman is still weak. Fragile. I don't want to say weak so they don't become offended, but they're fragile. And it's up to us to understand that. So when something emanates from her that you don't understand that it's emanating from a person who's fragile. وَهُوَ مَسْئُولٌ عَنْهَا, he's responsible for her. Understand that as well, that as men we're responsible for our women. Be responsible. Earn a living. Provide for her a home. Provide for her clothing. Provide for her emotional support. Be a man. Men are responsible for women. When Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam yaqul, and the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, Istawsu bin nisa khayra. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, treat your women well. If you treat yourself well, if you have all of the finer things in life, make sure she has the finer things in life. Treat your women well. Treat your wife well. She should have the best of what you can afford, clothing, fooding. She should have the best of what you can afford. Treat your women well. Don't shortchange her. When it comes to yourself, you buy yourself the finest things, but when it comes to the wife, she's shortchanged and gets the cheapest things. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, treat your women well. فَيُؤْخُذْ بِوَصِيَّةِ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صلى الله عليه وسلم. So a person, he takes the advice of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you don't take the advice of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whose advice are you going to take? If you don't take the advice of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then whose advice are you going to take? The advice of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is treat your women well. فَيَرْفُقْ بِالْمَرْأَةِ. So he treats her gentle. No doubt as men you have to be, like we said, a woman is fragile. A man doesn't interact with his wife the way he interacts with other men. She's fragile. Treat your women well. From the points or aspects of treating a woman well is that you're gentle with her. Stern when you need to, no doubt that you don't, situations where you can't be gentle, you may have to be stern. But treat your women well and be gentle to them. وَيَتَحَمُّ مِنْهَا بَعْدَ الْأَخْطَاءِ, and bear some of the mistakes that she's going to make. Bear some of the mistakes that she's going to make. A woman is not going to be perfect. If she makes a mistake, there's no need to jump all on her. Verbally is what I mean. There's no need to give her a tongue lashing for a mistake that she made. Mufti, he mentions that a person, he bears the mistakes that emanate from his wife. يقول صلى الله عليه وسلم خيركم خيركم لأهله وأنا خيركم لأهلي. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, the best of you are those who are best to their families, and I'm the best to my family. The best of you are those who are best to their family, and I'm the best to my family. فيصبر الزوج ويحتسب ويتحمل بعد أخطاء. So the man is patient, the husband is patient, and he seeks his reward with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And no doubt things become easy when that is on your mind or that is in your heart. That a person is patient and he seeks his reward with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he bears some of those mistakes, and he overlooks some of those mistakes that emanate from her. لأن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول لا يفرق مؤمن مؤمنة إن كره منها خلقا رضي منها آخر. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the believing man does not dislike or detest the believing woman. The believing man does not detest the believing woman. If he sees something that he dislikes, he looks at something that he's pleased with. Something emanates from a person's wife that he dislikes, no doubt that he can find 20 other things that he does like, or he wouldn't be married to her. Something happens, the immediate reaction, prophetic guidance from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Something emanates from her that you dislike, then you automatically turn to something that you like. And no doubt a person will find numerous things. The Mufti, he continues, المرأة تصبر على أخطاء زوجها وتتحمل بعد أخطائه. Likewise, the woman, she's patient with some of the mistakes that emanate from her husband, especially if he's a good guy. Why complain about something that's small and minute without looking at the decades that he's taking care of you, or the years that he's taking care of you? A mistake emanates and it's as if a person wants to explode over that. Without looking at any of the good that he's done. So she's patient with some of his mistakes as well. وقد تتم بحاجات اقتصادية أو اجتماعية أو نحو ذلك. And a woman should pay attention to this point as well. That it could be that the husband, he makes a mistake. But that could be due to him being preoccupied with some type of financial situation. No doubt a husband that's really trying to play his part, he's constantly thinking of if he has to. He may be well off. If he's well off, that's different. But it could be a person that's constantly thinking about how am I going to take care of my family? What am I going to do next? I need to make sure that this bill is paid, that bill is paid. That's a good characteristic. Person constantly figuring out how he's going to provide and maintain for his family. That can have an effect on his behavior. Stress, for lack of better words. That can have an effect on his behavior. He could be thinking about those things, and you say something to him at that moment, and he says something unbefitting. For example, no doubt a woman is patient with that. It's not that she has a fit over something like that. It could be something that's on his mind that caused him to say something unbefitting. Or it could be something that's going on socially. It could be something between him and a brother, a business deal, whatever the case may be. It could be something that's going on socially with him. She says something to him at the wrong moment, and he reacts in a way that's unbefitting. Does a woman scream out khula because of something like that? Does she scream out annul my marriage because of something like that? No, she's patient with those mistakes, just as he has to be patient with hers. The Mufti, he mentions تقدر صفو حياته, that his life may be in turmoil a little. وربما ترى منه بعد الإعراض لأجل اشتغال قلبه بتلك بعض الهموم الواردة عليه تصليه. And it could be that due to the things that are going on in his life that he's not as into her for a week or two because of something going on. She noticed that he's distant. They're not talking as much. They're not going out as much or whatever the case may be. He's distant. But not due to anything that's emanating for her, but due to some things that are going on in his life that are probably connected to her. Stressed about a job in order so he can take care of her. Worrying about how to manage this situation so he can take care of her and the kids. And it has an effect on their relationship. May have to be out of the house more, may not be able to go out this weekend or that weekend. It's not for a woman to complain about something like that. Why would a woman complain and come to the masjid and call around the masjid for something like that? When the origin of the issue is something for you anyway. But rather, the mind frame of a woman is that she should be trying to do what? What should she be trying to do in that situation? What should we be looking for in our wives? Comfort. If that's the situation, a woman shouldn't be itching to complain, but she should be itching to comfort her husband. She should be itching to comfort him and make his affairs easy, not looking to complain. فَتُضَمِّدُ جَرَاحَهُ, so she heals his wounds. That's what she should be doing. She heals his wounds. وَتَكُونْ عَوْنًا لَهُ, and she aids him. تُنْسِيهِ الْهُمُومَ وَالْغُمُومَ, because of her, he should be able to forget what's going on. She should be a cause for him to forget all of those things that are going on in his life. When he sees her, he should forget everything that happened that day. And we're not saying that women have to be perfect, but this is ideally. Ideally, all of those things going on when he comes in the house or when he hears your phone call or gets your text message, he should forget all of those things that are going on. Not that a woman is itching to complain. بِطِيبَ kalam, that he hears from her nice speech. وَحُسْنُ مَعَاشَرَتِهِ, and that she interacts with him in an excellent manner. وَأَنْ يَرَى مِنْهَا السَّكَنَ وَالْهَادِي, وَأَنْ يَرَى مِنْهَا السَّكَنَ الْهَادِي, and that she should see from her calmness and tranquility. It's enough going on outside for 8, 10, 12 hours, however long a person is out. There's enough going on. It's enough chaos and confusion. Enough kufr. The person's outside in kufr all day. Enough kufr, disbelief, and disobedience around him all day. When he comes in the house, it should be calm and tranquil. Calm and tranquil. Well, he stands sadiq, and she should have a truthful tongue with him. And no doubt that's from a praiseworthy characteristic of a woman. That she's upfront with her husband. And to the men, don't get upset if your wife is upfront with you. If she tells you there's a mistake that you're making, don't become arrogant. It's your wife. If it's a clear mistake that you're making, Allah and His Messenger say this and you're doing that. You said you were going to do this, but you didn't do it. Don't get upset if your wife checks you. Don't become arrogant. And no doubt that's not a pass for the women to be arrogant with their husbands. We're talking about in a kind manner. Whatever you call your husband, you call him that and say that was a mistake. If your wife doesn't advise you, who will? If your wife is not from the people that are going to advise you, who will? Whether it be with the affairs of the religion, whether it be with the affairs of your worldly life, if your wife isn't going to advise you, who will? Don't get arrogant. And likewise, women, don't get arrogant if your husband advises you. That she has a truthful tongue with him. وَرُبَّمَا يُنْسِي كُلَّ أَحْزَانَهُ. She behaves in that manner, then perhaps he'll forget everything that's making him sad. قال جل وعلا هو الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وجعل منها زوجها ليسكن إليها. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he mentions that he is the one that created you, went from one soul. And he made from it a spouse. So that you may find tranquility there. It's the goal of a spouse. That they find tranquility in one another. فَسَكْنَاهُ لَهَا إِرْتِيَاهُهُ مَعَهَا. So tranquility is that he finds ease with her. وَأَنْ يَكُنْ كُلُّ مِنْهُمَا يَعْذُرُ صَاحِبَهُ وَيُعِينُ صَاحِبَهُ. And that each one of them finds excuses for the other. That each one of the spouses, that they find excuses for one another. And that they aid them. The Mufti, he continues, وَلَا يَنْبَغِي أَنْ يَكُونَ الطَّلَاقُ مَشَاعٌ بَيْنَنَا. Memorize this. It's not befitting that divorce is widespread amongst us. It's not befitting that divorce is widespread amongst the Muslims. إلا إذا أتى كل الوسائل الممكنة. Except after all means have been exhausted. How many people can say that? Those who have been tested with divorce, we're not saying that divorce is impermissible, divorce is permissible. When it's needed. But how many people can say that if they've been divorced before that they did that they went through all of the channels in order to save that marriage? Or was it just your divorce, that's it, or give me a khula, that's it, without even trying to rectify the situation? The Mufti is mentioning that that's after all of the channels are trying to have been tried. Everything has been tried. إذا تعذرت كل وسائل ممكنة وأصبح الزوجان في الشقاء وعناء وتعذر الإصلاح بينهما وأصبح في حال مزية فإن الفراق أولى من البقاء. The Mufti, he mentions, if the two spouses, if it gets to a point where they're just miserable with each other. Gets to a point where they're miserable. And they've tried everything, and they've exhausted all of the measures in order to make it work. Then at this particular time, then separating is better than staying together. Separating is better than staying together, but I ask my brothers and my sisters to examine yourself. If you've been through that, or if you've gone through that, can you honestly tell yourself that I exhausted every single means to make this thing work? The Mufti, he mentions لكن لا نلجأ إليها إلا عند الضرورة القصوى. He mentions, however, we don't go, or we don't seek the divorce except if it's a necessity and all of the means have been tried in order to save the marriage. Wallahu as'al an yuwaffiq al-jameel ma yuhibbuhu wa yardah. The Mufti, he mentions, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant success to all of us, to be able to carry out what he loves and what he's pleased with. Lakin ya akhi, the Mufti, he continues, however, O my brother, wa ya ukhti al-muslimah, he says, however, O my Muslim brother, my Muslim sister, إن الحياة الزوجية لا تتم إلا بتعامل الجيد وتفاهم. The Mufti, he mentioned that marital life is not going to be complete except with interacting with each other in a kind manner, in a good manner. And write this down, especially those who are newly married, وتفاهم, and seeking to understand one another. Seeking to understand one another. Sometimes the spouse might say something, you have to try to understand why they said that. You have to sit down and say, why did you say that? What's your rationale behind that? Why would you say something like that? I said it because X, Y, Z. And the person says, well, that wasn't even what I meant by that. That wasn't, and you start to have some type of tafahum, some type of understanding, some type of dialogue. In marriage, there has to be dialogue between the spouses, communication, as they said. It has to be communication and dialogue, or it's not going to work. Shutting down and not speaking and leaving out and not just leaving people to wander in their thoughts is not going to work. There has to be dialogue and communication. وَحَلَ الْمَشَاكِلْ بَيْنَكُمَا, and sitting down and trying to resolve the issues that are between you. وَأَنْ لَا يَكُنْ لِلشَّيْطَانِ لَهُ نَصِيبٌ بَيْنَكُمَا, and that the shaitan doesn't have a share in your relationship. That the shaitan, he doesn't have any share in your relationship. فَإِنَّ الشَّيْطَانِ يَفْرَحْ إِذَا رَأَى بَيْنَ الزَّوْجَيْنِ خِلَافًا, that the shaitan, he becomes happy when he sees the spouses arguing and differing. Know that the shaitan becomes happy. Know that when you're arguing with your wife, or if you're arguing with your husband, know that the shaitan is happy. And none of us want to make the shaitan happy. جاء في سنة, it comes in the sunnah, أن إبليس يدع عرشه, that Iblis, that the shaitan, he places his arsh, his throne or his chair, على الماء, on the water. ويبث جنوده في الأرض, and he sends his army out into the earth. Sends his army out to the earth. يأتيه الواحد فيقول, so one of the shaitan's army, that's not the correct way of the qibla, is it? Somebody tell me. يأتيه الواحد فيقول, so one of them comes to him and he says, ما فعلت. So one of those devils from his army comes and he says to him, comes back to the shaitan, he says, what did you do? What have you done today? قال ما زلت بفلان حتى أقع أباه. He said, I stayed with so-and-so until he disrespected his father. No doubt, that's from sins in Islam. It's to disrespect one's father. So I stayed with him until he disrespected his father. Call away a hack. He said, woe to you. Shaitan says to that one, woe to you. You haven't done anything. You haven't done anything. Person disrespects, look how evil the shaitan is. Person disrespects his father and the shaitan tells him, you haven't done anything. That's not good enough. Yushiku an yusalihu abahu. He's going to rectify with his father. He'll rectify with his father. وَيَأْتِيهِ آخَرٌ. Another one of his army comes. فَيَقُولُ مَا زِلْتُ حَتَّى قَطَعَ رَحِمَهُ. I stayed with him until he cut his family members off. How evil is that? I stayed with him until he cut his family members off. Stop talking to his aunt, uncle, whatever the case may be. Cut them off. Brother, sister, argument over money, whatever the case may be. With frivolous reasons that people cut their family members off. قال ما عملت شيء. He says, you haven't done anything. Shaytan says to him, you haven't done anything. That's not anything. A person cuts off his family members, that's not anything to the Shaytan. يُوشِكُ أَن يَصِلُوا رَحِمَهُ. He's going to make up with his family. They'll rectify. يَأْتِيهِ آخَرٌ. Then another one comes. Another one from his army comes. فَيَقُولُ مَا زِلْتُ بِفُلَانٍ حَتَّى فَرَّقْتُ بَيْنَهُ وَبَيْنَ إِمْرَأَتِهِ. So the other one, he comes, he says, I stayed with so-and-so, and I didn't leave until I separated between him and his wife. I didn't leave until I made them separate. Till she screamed khula or he screamed divorce, I didn't leave until they separated. قَالَ فَيَضُمُّهُ إِلَيْهِ وَيُدْنِيهِ. So the Shaytan, he brings this one close. He grabs that one. And he brings him close to him, pulls him close. وَيَقُولُ أَنْتَ أَنْتَ. He says, you're the one, you're the one. Praising him for what he did, causing the family to be destroyed. Don't make the Shaytan happy. Don't be the one that screams out divorce. Don't be the one that screams out khula. فَالشَّيْطَانُ يَفْرَحُ بِخِلَافِ الزَّوْجَيْنِ. The Mufti, he continues. So the Shaytan, he's happy with the differing between the spouses. وَيَسْعَى فِي ذَلِكَ. And he strives to achieve that. Know that the Shaytan strives to achieve that. لكن إن صادفه قلوب مؤمنة. However, if believing hearts face him, مطمئنة, calm, believing hearts, قلوب نقية طاهرة. If believing, tranquil, pure, clean hearts from two sincere spouses face these issues and face this Shaytan, دفع وساوس الشيطان. Then they won't have the whispers of the Shaytan. The two spouses, they need to be believers. They need to have tranquil hearts. They need to have clean, pure hearts. They need to be sincere. And they'll be able to push off and repel those whispers from the Shaytan. وَتَقَلَّبَ عَلَى كُلِّ ذَلِكَ. And they'll be able to overcome all of that. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us from those who have long, prosperous marriages and from those who are able to restrain ourselves. وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه